Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you all of the books that I read in the month of January. So it ended up being a really good reading month for me. I read a total of 5 books and I'm currently in the process of listening to one audiobook and another book on my Kindle. So technically it was close to 7. I am filming this on the 29th, so I could have finished these in time, but yeah, overall it was a really good reading month. I had kind of had some hit and misses here, but a big part of like all the books that I read here are I'm trying to clear up all the books. I'm going to be doing a unhaul in February, so I figured I need to figure out which books I want to kind of get rid of, and some of these were distinguishing factors. If I didn't like them, I can get rid of them. So yeah, you can see this month that I did do kind of a 24-hour readathon, so you can go check that out. I'll link that up in the cards, so if you want to go and watch that, where I did read kind of I finished 2 books and then I had partially got like 50 pages into one, so you can go check that out if you're interested in seeing what what my reading experience is like. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first book that I ended up reading this month was A Wrinkle in Time, and I read this in anticipation of the movie coming out in March, and I did not like this book at all. It's basically where this girl's father gets like kidnapped in another time-space continuum thing, and I really enjoyed kind of how the author tried to integrate math and physics and science into the book, but overall it just fell flat, and I found I didn't really care much for the characters in there. The main protagonist was really whiny, and I don't know, it was just really boring, and I felt like I never was really attached to the plot. The ending was rushed, and like the characters never really figured anything out for themselves. It was more they were told everything, so I don't know, I just didn't really like this one, and I gave it a 1 out of 5 stars. Next, I ended up picking up The Last Letter from Your Lover by Jojo Moyes, and again, this is a book that I've had on my shelf for a while. Basically, this is kind of has a dual storyline, so it takes place in the 1960s following Jennifer, who wakes up from a automobile accident, and she doesn't remember anything. She doesn't remember the accident that put her there. She doesn't remember nothing about her past. So when she's trying to put together the pieces of her life, she finds these love letters kind of hidden away in her room, and she kind of is intrigued by that because she's trying to figure out why she would risk everything to be with this man. And so it kind of goes off from there, and then has a dual storyline. Flash forward to I think 2003, where Ellie, who's a journalist, kind of finds these letters and whatever happened. But I really kind of like the overall storyline to this, but I did not like any of the characters. Cheating and kind of affairs are a common thing that takes place in here, and I don't really enjoy books that do that, and I don't know, because of that I didn't find any of the characters to be really likable. They were very self-centered and just very arrogant, and I didn't really like that, and just kind of the cheating and how everyone was really okay with that, and Ellie in particular really expected this guy that she was having an affair with to drop everything, like drop his family just to be with her, and I just found that to be really interesting, or irritating, not interesting. But yeah, I just did not like this book at all. Like, I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. I like kind of the overarching like love story, but I didn't really enjoy the story as a whole. So yeah, this is definitely one that I have not liked. I did not like this book. I've read Me Before You and The Last Letter from Your Lover, and I prefer those books over this one because I did not like this one at all. So this is another book that I finished in my January 24-hour readathon thing, and it was Stronger by Jeff Bowman, and this is his memoir of his experience surviving the Boston bombing and everything that took place after that. So I got this actually for my birthday from my brother, and I'm in the orthotics and prosthetics program at my school, so like this is going to be my career, working with people who lose their legs, hopefully, and not in these traumatic ways. But yeah, I really enjoyed this story. He's very candid about what happened and kind of his experiences, and just not only his flaws with going through everything, but with his family as well. Yeah, so I really enjoyed this book, and just him describing his experience with like when it happened, like when the bomb exploded, because he was like right there and he actually saw one of the bombers, so like that was really interesting. And then he goes into some of the prosthetic stuff in here as well. I will say though that he even mentions in here that like his editor was really pushing him to get this book done, so it only covers like the first 4 months, and then it flash forward 6 months after the bombing, so you don't really get a lot of like, you just get kind of like the the rehab part of it. You don't get to see him like a year later, where one of his goals was to walk at the next Boston Marathon. So that was my only complaint, was that it was a bit rushed, and like it's a very small, and I feel like it could have gone, like I don't think people would have lost interest even if this was published like 2 years after it. So I would have enjoyed hearing more about like what happened. So I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book, and it was a really good kind of learning experience for me, being a future prosthetist. So kind of towards the end of my readathon, I then ended up picking Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and this is one that's been on my shelf for a while, and I've heard really great things about it, so I was really excited to pick it up, and I loved it. It was a really fun book. Basically it follows a girl named Adishka who lives in kind of this fantasy-esque world where there is this wood, which is kind of like a dark force that kind of has these monsters, and it slowly kind of like killing the land that's there. So in order to kind of protect the kind of the wood and the people that live there, the Lord essentially is like a wizard, and he does all that. So in payment for kind of protection, he takes one girl every 10 years. So obviously Agnieszka is the one who gets chosen, and it takes off from there. So going into this, I didn't know much about the plot, and the back is pretty vague about that, but that's basically what I told you was the premise at the back of it. So going into it, I was like, I don't know what to expect from this, and like where is it going, but I really love this book. It was really unique, and I really like that it's a standalone, so it's like one and done. My only complaint was that I did find some parts to be very confusing, and just some of the wording was a little awkward at times, and I had to reread some passages because I was like, I don't understand what's going on here. But yeah, I really like this overall. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I knocked it down half a star because I did find some parts to be confusing, and I did have to reread some sections, until to this day I still don't really understand some parts of it. But yeah, I really liked it, and it's a really, if you're looking for a unique kind of fantasy fairy tale-esque book, then definitely pick this one up because it was really good, and I'm really upset that I waited so long to actually read this. And so lastly, the last book that I ended up reading this month was Red Rising by Pierce Brown, and this is the first book in the Red Rising trilogy. So basically it's like a sci-fi dystopian following a guy named Darrow, who is a red, and he's like the lowest out of the color class system. So it's golds like are like superior, and they're like the ruling class, and then there's like different colors, and then red's like at the bottom. So basically he gets recruited essentially to kind of go undercover as a gold and kind of upthrow the Gold Society and start the rebellion. So I did find that to be like kind of the overall arching, like him being undercover, to be really interesting. But I don't know, I wasn't really attached to any of the characters. Like I found Darrow to be very arrogant and self-centered, so I didn't really care much for him and his like arrogance. It just drove me nuts. And like even here, like none of the characters in here there's so many side characters in here, and they were all just one-dimensional, and there wasn't really much to them. And this is something that I've heard a lot about, is that it gets better apparently, but I found the female characters to be just plot devices to move the story forward or to move the main character forward. So I did have problems with that, and I felt like this book was just unnecessarily long. Like there's like basically for like a solid like 200 pages like nothing happens. And yeah, so I definitely won't be continuing on with this series. This again was one I was like, it's been on my shelf for a while. I need to decide if it's a book that I'm gonna like want to continue on or get rid of. So this is gonna be a book, like I gave it a 1 out of 5 stars, definitely one that I'm gonna be getting rid of, and I won't be continuing on with this series. So that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what books you've read this month, and if you've read any of these, what did you think about them? So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.